Alright, we are recording for Chapter 7 of The Pastor's Courage. Um, this might have the fewest number of notes thus far for a chapter. Plenty happens in it. It just kind of easy to write, I guess. Well, easy for me to write up. So they have arrived at Tost, or Toast. I'm gonna go with Tost, T-O-S-T. A work camp, lumber mill. That, well, they look at it and it's like, this is potential for escape and sabotage. And initially, yes, they are doing the work, but the Unter officer, so the officer in charge, the under officer in charge, it seems, he is like, all right, you're doing work, that's fine. And it's important to mention, he always goes around with a pipe. He's constantly smoking it as well. So it's like he's happy because work is being done, but he starts to notice that the loads are lighter than they should be. And so he inquires about that, asks it of Coward specifically because he's basically the NCO in charge there of the prisoners. So what's going on? He's like, I'll go check. Well, they've been diverting the logs that are being cut into planks. Have to go up the hill into the sawmill for that to find that. It has been diverted to create a ladder. Which the plan is, it's a ladder that would be able to get you over the fence. But it's like, okay, we actually need to start fulfilling orders. So are we good with the plan? Yeah. All right. So the plan. Well, I'm guessing that there's two parts to it. The second part they never do, which is to use a ladder to escape. Because the first part is douse it all in gasoline. So then he comes down and tells the officer, everything's good. Just tell truck to pull up and load will be put on there. Perfect. Truck backs up for that. Put the load of now gasoline-soaked wood in the back. And while the German is standing there, and Cow's like, yeah, everybody knows you need to wait because this is all part of the plan. You need to wait. The German, as is his habit, strikes a match for his pipe and throws it. And when he does that, Coward also strikes his own match and plunges it into the soaked lumber so that it then goes up in a wall of flame, and the German thinks he did it himself. Well, it also, the Coward, tackles him down to the ground, for his safety, but also then does say you touched it off. And from this, the fire rapidly spreads because the POWs wanted to and had doused a whole bunch of other stuff. One of them even runs into the building that the Germans were using as their own headquarters, their own barracks, their kitchen. Runs in there with what was left of the gasoline to pour over that, so that burns down, the sawmill burns down, everything burns down, except the POW barracks, curiously enough. I mean, to be fair, it might just be they was far enough away that it wouldn't be touched, but in any case, because you would think somebody would have realized that, but yeah, the POWs are not particularly interested in actually fighting the fire and seem to just be stumbling over themselves rushedly, going around, and this causes more of it to burn. And the officer also recognizes the nearest fire brigade is 10 miles away and they're not very good. This is all just going to go up. This is all just... Well, unfortunately, the ladder gets burned as well, so that's lost. But it still is... This is a very, very good opportunity for Coward and the others. Because this German believes he started the fire. And they even point out that, it would be such a shame having to imagine you on the Russian front. Which, if you know Hogan's Heroes, that comes up a lot. So, Coward teases him a little bit with, the whole, well, we know you did it. So, I mean, it's like, what could possibly, keep us from telling anything? I mean, you could let us escape. He's like, but we wouldn't ask that. Oh, good. Could let us go into town, though. No escapes, right? No, we just want to go in and buy stuff from the shops in town. Okay. And so the German actually agrees to that, which is not that unreasonable in a certain way. I mean, obviously, he shouldn't be allowing that. He feels he's in a situation he must, but there is that element of POWs are not necessarily criminals, so the idea of letting them into the native population doesn't have to be as concerning. It still is a concern. It's still something you should not be doing without a guard, but he's in a bad situation where he thinks he is. And it's not like he just allows everyone to go. It sounds like it's only if a coward or a coward and one other person. So, like, only one or two people going in at a time. So it's, so long as you're not doing something obviously suspicious, the guards are likely not, will obey the officer and not just shoot you for trying to escape. So, as Coward and another first walk into town, they encounter that there's actually a civilian internment camp there. And turns out there's at least one person there who does speak English. Not necessarily the best, but he does speak it. So they're able to talk with him, and they find out that, well, the internment camp, they're willing to help them. Because he specifically is Romanian? The guy that they are talking to at the camp, but there's a lot of people, all different languages, all there, eager for any news. And they are willing to help because they recognize that, well, they want Germany defeated, but they recognize that the Britishers can potentially help achieve that better than they can. So yeah, there is a certain camaraderie going on where you do share what you can with those. It's like you might not be escaping, but you're still helping the person who is trying to escape because that is still helpful. So anyway, they share that there is a boy, 12-year-old boy, they call Rudy, who goes between his home and the internment camp. And there, he works in the kitchen, but he's friendly with them. So he is a way to get things in and out of the camp. And the arrangement becomes, all right, we will tell him to help you and give him some clothes that can get to you, because the POWs are in uniforms that kind of reveal the fact they're POWs. So they want to replace them. Go into town, find the shop that the boy and his mother work in, and basically we give you chocolate, you give us the clothing. And that's what's arranged. While going back, Coward's friend, I don't remember which one this was, because there were a few. There's 4 in total. One I would stand out. Pliski, because he's a Polish tailor who is going to be part of the escape. Connolly, he's not the one who was with him, and another, I'm just blanking on his name. Anyway, he admonishes Coward for being a bit too rash. That he's just like gambling with this stuff, that freely just talking with the woman and Rudy, because it's still possible they could turn them in. And he's just, oh yeah, totally, you'll help us with this, right? And we'll give you this. It's like, could you relax a little bit on that? It does work out fine, at least through the end of the chapter. What ends up happening is Coward goes back into town later, and he just goes into the shop, goes into a back room, takes off his clothing, puts on the clothing that has been provided to him, and then puts his uniform on over top. So he's wearing 2 sets of clothes now, and he has to do this 4 times, so he brings back 4 sets of clothes, which for the most part works. It does describe that there is the one of the sets is too small for the guy who would need to wear it, but Pliski, he's a tailor, so he's able to fix things up. It is also interesting that they describe it dyeing some of the clothes using jam. I mean, it's like, yeah, I guess jam would have natural pigments in there that would work for that. It still is just, you wouldn't necessarily think of it. At least not today. But hey, if it's what you gotta do, it's what you gotta do. And that's exactly what the POWs are gonna do, what they have to do. Yeah. I don't think I misspoke on that, but so anyway, they now have the clothing they need. People have already been transferring maps onto handkerchiefs for them, because a paper map is going to stand out, but a handkerchief, depending, might get through a search. The POWs have also been fashioning compasses out of razor blades, and what food they can collect together, they have collected together, like a bread, sausage. There was also mention of hardtack at the shop where the woman and boy are. That and that would be suitable for what they want to do, which is to, at some point, this is how the chapter ends, is the four get ready to break out. So they go part of the way, and then the remaining POWs, they have a huge ruckus in order to draw the Germans to them. So then the four can rush to the wire, cut through it with the pliers that they stole while the thing was burning down, and then slip out and just run. It's also worth mentioning, I forgot to say it earlier, Tostes is it is within a forest that extends across much of southern Germany and Poland. So it is a large forest. They can get into it. It's reasonable they could get lost as far as the Germans are concerned. And from there, they're going to try to head to one town, buy tickets to get on a train that'll take them near the Swiss border, I think it had said. Get off before it goes too far so they can then walk, hopefully, across a section of the border that is likely not so guarded. That's their hope, that's their plan, but the chapter is ended, so we don't know yet how far they will get. It has been said already that in the book that he does spend from 40 to 45. He spends that time as a POW, so we know he's not going to succeed in escaping. But maybe the others will, and he somehow gets caught or whatever. We will find out going forward, but it is still... There's the cost of the manhunt to the Germans, and there's the cost of the sawmill having been destroyed. Because if nothing else, it mentions they have to bring in a generator, a portable generator, now to power the mill, power the saw blade. Well, that generator could have gone to any other use. It likely was being used for something else that now it cannot be. It's hard to say. Maybe that was a military purpose that's just considered less important than the sawmill, so it was diverted. It could even have come from the town. It may have been used by the civilians, which is somewhat important. I do recognize, I think I'll put it that way, because I do believe that ultimately, and I don't know how much I'll talk about this for the rest of the book, but that ultimately it's breaking the will of the civilians in a war to fight it. That's what leads to the war ending. Because once the morale of the people to support the war effort, once that's gone, then because soldiers will fight a war as long as they are good soldiers. Seems like they will do what they were told, or at least do the best that they can. I'm saying, there's the whole idea of will they still commit, what happens if you order somebody to commit a war crime? Well, they might refuse, but that doesn't mean that they will just cease fighting. It's that's kind of separate. But if the people back home don't want to keep growing the food for you, don't want to keep running the machines to produce ammunition and weapons for you, and don't want to join the military to fight with you and must be forcibly conscripted and such, that does depress the capability of the war effort. Well, if this incident of sabotage is taking away electricity that they want to have, again, that's going to break. Well, it's going to lessen the morale for it all. And even if they don't do something so great, it may still push one or two more people to decide to join the underground and do other things to weaken the internal war effort. So, yeah. That's just a long way of saying that even that bit of sabotage, without them escaping, is still going to have an impact on hurting Germany's war effort. So, and that's part of the reason why I think that this is, aside from just, it's a very interesting story, very interesting life Charlie Coward led, but it is also valuable to learn from, because this is an aspect of the history that I think a lot of people can forget about, and teachers can potentially neglect to teach it because we have to cover so many other things. That kind of idea, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it's like, yeah, sure, The Great Escape does express that, but I mean, The Great Escape, not everyone cares for a classic film, which is definitely disappointing. Because classic films are classic for a reason. 63, there's also the fact that some people are like, oh, that's so old. Why would I want to watch it? It's like, because it's good. 2 hours, 52 minutes. that I was just pulling it up. Because I do have it on my server and I want to see how long it is. Yeah. Such a good movie. And hang on. Oh, that's actually interesting. Yeah, just it doesn't have a picture for Steve McQueen here. But anyway, yeah, Steve McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, saying that poorly. James Donald, who, and by the way, a lot of them were actually POWs. James Donald, I'm pretty sure was. Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasence, James Coburn, Hans Mesmer. He's actually the German commander for the camp, the commandant. I want to say he actually had been a POW as well. David McCallum, Gordon Jackson, John Layton, Angus Lenny Ives. I can actually stop at this point for what I was trying to do because it's... I mean, definitely to James Coburn in that list. Steve McQueen did a whole bunch of things, like the Thomas Crown Affair, the original. Wait, isn't that him? Maybe it wasn't, but Bullet, James Garner, Americanization of Emily, Richard Attenborough, Jurassic Park, James Donald. He's a little bit harder, but Bridge on the River Kwai, which is another POW movie, very good movie, different theater. Charles Bronson, Death Wish. Donald Pleasence. He did Blofeld in... He was Blofeld in... You Only Live Twice, I think it was? Let me look. Yep, You Only Live Twice. I also have that, so that makes it easier. James Coburn, who did so many things. How many do I have? Oh, I only have Charade. Oh, yeah, that's true, and a couple of Riflemen. Oh, he did more than that. I'm just trying to think. Oh, The Magnificent Seven. He was the cowboy in that who used the knives. Who throw the knives. Donald Pleasence was also... Pretty sure he was... Yeah, I'm pretty sure part of the trivia for The Great Escape. And this is another reason why this stuff is actually very interesting. I mean, okay. Telling a different story. Different piece of trivia for a movie. In the Lord of the Rings trilogy that they did, you had Christopher Lee playing Sauron. Christopher Lee was in the... I don't remember what it would be called but at the time, but basically military intelligence. He was a British spy during World War II. And also, he is a fascinating man because he knew multiple languages, highly, highly intelligent. I mean, it's almost like, why was he only an actor later in life? It's like, well, he wasn't just an actor. He did lots of stuff. But anyway, the way they incorrectly kill off Saruman in the movies, in the extended edition at least, is Wormtongue stabs him in the back. And at one point, ahead of the scene, Christopher Lee walked up to Peter Jackson, I assume it was Peter Jackson, maybe somebody else, and been like, do you know what it sounds like when somebody is stabbed in the back? Because, stab specifically, in the lung, because you would do that because it makes it so they cannot yell out. And they were like, no, what is that like? And it's like, well, no, I know what it sounds like. So Christopher Lee kind of took over that scene. Donald Pleasence was also a POW in World War II. So in The Great Escape, so now I'm shifting to a different one, a different story. During the filming of The Great Escape, Donald Pleasence, he was... I think in real life he was something of a quiet man. Like, he wouldn't bother people typically. And at one point he was trying to give suggestions as far as changes, corrections for The Great Escape. And the director actually yelled at him to stop. And he did. However, later somebody came up and told him he was a POW during World War II. He is not just giving you suggestions, he is giving you corrections. And so he actually went and apologized to Pleasance, who then did continue to give him the feedback so they could make it more accurate. But yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. And knowing some of that history there, it is part of what makes that movie and many others more valuable, because it wasn't just a movie, it was to recreate an aspect of history that, as I said, you're not always going to be taught in school because other things are considered a higher priority. And while that sucks, at the same time, it's understandable. There are other aspects of World War II deserving of that higher priority. But that's not to say the things that aren't the highest priority do not still have a priority and are therefore unworthy of being taught. No, they certainly are. And I guess, when it concerns specifically POWs, for my very limited knowledge of it, I would suggest, to potentially get a child's appetite whetted for it. Show them The Great Escape. Show them Stalag 17. Stalag 17 is a bit more of the drama, so that might not work so well, but at the same time, though, I'm pretty sure a lot of that is accurate to reality. It is not a true story, but it is accurate to reality. So in aspects of what POWs were going through, what the Germans tried to do, because there's a spy and was placed in that, and I think that is actually somewhat true. But also Bridge on the River Kwai, I mentioned that all three of those excellent movies. And Bridge on the River Kwai can definitely open up other aspects of the POW experience, because it was a Japanese camp in that case. So you saw how the Japanese treated people there, and even then, that was another thing that's weird if you look into the history, the actual history around that, because that is based on a true story. Bridge on the River Kwai is. And the commander, the Japanese commander in that, he survived until after the book that the Bridge on the River Kwai movie is based on was made and was written, and also into I think he survived past the movie as well. And the movie actually does do him discredit. It makes him much harsher and more evil a man than he actually was. Which, it's one of those things where, well, it was, unfortunately, it was how you had to tell the movie. Had to pit the good guys against somebody who's clearly wrong, clearly evil. But, yeah. Because, in the movie, he does die at the end. It's like, well, no, he did survive. And I think, I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've looked through that history, which is mainly just trivia for it. But it was something along the lines of, he even connected with some of the POWs, because he did treat them better than is depicted, or at least he was a better behaved individual there. I hope I'm remembering that all correctly, but it still is. There are certain aspects of what is being depicted in Bridge on the River Kwai, which is, even with some inaccuracies, it's still, there's a certain human truth to it that is valuable. And as I said, it's about whetting a child's appetite to learn more about what's going on, but to learn it because they wish to learn it, as opposed to just it being forced on them. And then potentially you could get them to reading, well, the actual book. The Passenger Courage in this case, but also, as I said, Bridge on the River Kwai, I don't remember the name of the book that's based on, but it is also based on a book. Stalag 17, well, Bridge on the River Kwai is based on a book of actual events. Stalag 17 is based on a play. I don't know how much that's based on actual events. The Great Escape is based on actual events as well. And so there are books written on that, which I also just remembered something about The Great Escape. So in that, The Great Escape, it's done by a tunnel, and they describe in the movie that there were 3 tunnels. It actually, I'm pretty sure it was in my lifetime, it finally got declassified. No, there was a 4th tunnel. It's like, why would you classify the actions of POWs to escape? But apparently we did. Don't remember why. I was like, there is actually some reason for that, but so yeah, I mean, it's like there's a bunch of fascinating history there. So yeah. and it's very enjoyable to read, very enjoyable to watch. I'm pointing towards the movies that I have, and well, Star 17, Bridge on the River Kwai, and The Great Escape. It, I don't have the space to keep things well ordered, but in any case, yeah, it's a lot of fun for me because I enjoy the stories, I enjoy the history. So I guess I'm just going to end it on that note. Maybe that isn't the best way to end it, but then I probably should have ended it about 10 minutes ago or more. Alright, see you next time for Chapter 8, and we find out how this escape attempt goes. Because as I said, we already know he spends the bulk of the war as a POW, so he doesn't successfully escape, but he does survive and have various other adventures. See you then.